Producer Man, getting the job done once again, adding a little layer to our production. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, into the last word, part of the Behind the Turnbuckle universe. We are live every single Monday night at 11:10 p.m. Eastern Time. Now, I do have my partner here, and he is fired up tonight. We've had some technical difficulties because in the West Coast, or East Coast, we're having some issues. But the last word is presented by our good friends, our new partners at mybookie.ag. Use the promo code BTT for new customers, and everybody's new right now. Then we'll get to all of you who play, but 100%, Tommy C, up to $1,000. What that means is you put in $1,000, guess what we're going to give everybody? Another $1,000. It doesn't get any better than that. Good evening, big boy. I think that's probably Nils. We're gonna probably have to take him off because he can't hear me, he can't see me. So tonight I will do the I'll do the show by myself, and that's okay. Everybody in the chat, what's up, Aaron? Efren, the coach, the realest dude. Efren, we try. So we're here every single Monday night. There are issues on the East Coast with Wi-Fi, with cable vision.
Wow.
And I guarantee you right now that Tommy, he is all over the place right now. So it's going to be me and you. In fact, Raphael, you're in the chat right now. Nils, send Raphael a link. Let's get him on the show, and he'll do the show with me right now. Raphael, look for your email. You can come on with me right now. We will call an audible as we speak. This is where every single week, and we're changing things just a little bit, everybody. We are no longer on Tuesdays going to record a recap show. We've got interviews coming up with Chris Van Vliet, with Maven, and Maven, who is an internet beast, a YouTube beast, says, Coach, why are you guys doing 2 recaps? Nobody cares about 2 recaps. So every single Monday now here on The Last Word, we'll talk about what happened on SmackDown, if there's a PLE, and then, of course, what just happened on Monday Night Raw. How we're going to change things is we are going to do smaller segments that we're going to drop every Friday at 11 a.m. Big topics that you guys want to know about. For example, what do we think is going to happen in the Vince McMahon 6-episode documentary? We'll have a full show recapping every single one. That's the kind of stuff when you have over 45 years experience inside the WWE that we can do. I rode next to Vince for over 3 years in his private jet. Tommy worked with Shane McMahon for well over 10 years as part of his 32 years. We're going to lean into our credibility and lean into our years inside the WWE. We can play a little question and answer tonight. If you have any questions for me, put them into the chat, and I will answer them for you in real time. We'll start right there because I actually just did a video on this we're going to release tomorrow. How are we feeling about Joe Tessitore's first night on WWE commentary? Let me tell you guys this. I thought he was great. And once he figures out how to call the big spots, which are hard to do, and the big moves and what, he's going to be fantastic. I've always said this, that pro wrestling, because back in 2008, you know what I was told, ladies and gentlemen? I was told you'll never get a big-time sportscasting job. You've got the wrestling stink all over you. It's never going to happen. You'll never knock down that door. And damn it, what did we do? We knocked down that door. And in 2008, Todd Grisham followed me. Then Charlie followed me. And everybody went that way. But we've never had, I don't really count Adnan. What we've never had is a big-time announcer go from ESPN to WWE. I think you guys noticed tonight there are levels to this game. Joe Tessitore has been a big-time dude for a really long time, whether it's boxing, whether it's football. And I knew because of his boxing pedigree that he would be great calling Monday Night Raw. Didn't it feel like a real sporting event? And then he had the little details. You had the entire announce team down in the bottom with him and his collar guy. I can't remember. I'm embarrassed. Then he had Jackie, and then you got Kathy Kelly. But they're really trying to make this feel like a sporting event. Why? Well, a lot of you don't know what happens behind the scenes. And my bosses, when I was there, they weren't sports guys. They were wrestling guys. Vince McMahon and Kevin Dunn. Now the guys in charge are Nick Khan. He was a big-time agent for all of the stars at ESPN. Then you got Lee Fitting. He ran College Game Day for 25 years. he's now in charge of all of the production at WWE. So it just makes sense that they would lean into the sports style of that. Rich said he understands the storylines. It tells a good story. That he does. What helps is that he's a big WWE fan. He followed the product for many years and went to many shows. That absolutely helped. One of the biggest things, and Soupy's in the chat too, said Joe was fantastic. And let's go ahead and bring in my numbers guy who's always willing to fill in. I love this guy so much. Presented by mybookie.ag. Bring him in, Raphael Esparza. Good evening, Raphael. Thank you, sir.
Good evening. I was just doing some work, and I was like, "Oh, it's 10 o'clock. Let's watch some Last Word and stuff." So I'm like, "Hey, I'll jump on. I'm just, as long as you don't mind me typing and doing some research for actually doing some WWE research. Some kind of tonight. I'm going to do some Vince McMahon, probably betting odds on his new show on a new show. So it's going to be very interesting.
So we are going to do full recaps of every episode. It's going to be 6 episodes on Netflix. And I'm telling you right now, Raphael, you and I have talked a lot behind the scenes. And I never thought that 20 years ago or 15 years ago when I had a lot of respect for Vince McMahon. I worked with him. To see his fall from grace has been astounding. And I've been the first one to admit that he pissed me off. And when he didn't pay me all that money, that pissed me off. But I never want to see anybody build something like this and then completely not be able to enjoy it. He's got billions of dollars. But when you're 79 years old, does all that money really mean anything when you don't have your family? Your grandkids won't talk to you, supposedly, and you're not even a part of the biggest deal that you built towards with this Netflix $5 billion deal. I think the Netflix documentary is not going to paint him in a good light, and it probably shouldn't. What are your thoughts on it?
No, I think it's going to be very brutal. I've already seen the Aaron Hernandez show that they did on. It's going to be up to that kind of wow. I didn't know that. You're going to hear wow. I didn't know that. Wow, I didn't think that was going to happen. You're going to be a lot of wow factors in this one, and it's like you said. I feel bad. It reminds me of a couple presidents that I worked for in Vegas that were presidents of casinos, and they were great guys, but had skeletons in the closet and had to get let go or fired, and then get to enjoy all the stuff of building a hotel and build a casino and see all the riches come through because they maybe made one mistake or a couple mistakes and just couldn't be there. That's what this documentary, I think, is going to make me feel like. Some of the good presidents I worked for in Vegas, they're no longer in the industry because maybe they made some mistakes and couldn't see what the riches do. I think that's what I'm going to get out of it, probably.
I'm very conflicted because I was very close with him. I mean, on camera, you remember I was his assistant for a couple of years. When I look at my career, he hired me when I was 22, 23 years of age. I was there for almost 15 years off and on, but 10 straight years. I rode on his private jet. I went to Afghanistan. He put me in his group. He trusted me, and I was very, very close to him. So when I see everything he's accused of, I don't comment on it, but I just know that he's not here. And I know there's not a McMahon involved in the WWE now. It's so different from the company that I started in. And I used to revere him. And now I don't even know what I would say to him if I saw him in person. And isn't that weird in life when life goes by like that you would have all of these things happen? And now he's got to be sitting at home. We'll talk more about this, when we get to it. But, and Aaron asked, Coach, are you at all involved in that show? Interviewed at all? Full disclosure, Aaron, they did call me. And at that time when they called me, I was not in a position to do that. I didn't want to. I knew what it was going to be, Raphael. And there's actually going to be 2 or 3 big things coming out on Vince. And I was called for all of them because the people found out that I was really close to him. I rode on his private jet, all the stuff I've just said here. And I just, no matter how much he's been beaten down, Raphael, I don't feel like I want to pile on to that. Does that make sense?
It does. And I got asked a couple of days ago if they do a movie of Vince McMahon, who plays Vince McMahon? They want to know who I thought would be that. I'm like, hey, I need at least a week to try to figure out some actors that could be a good Vince McMahon, because you figure there's going to be a movie after this documentary, because like I said, I have a feeling this documentary is going to paint him really bad, and it's going to bring up a lot of dirt and a lot of news. So it wouldn't shock me if we do see movie. Heck, they're making a Hulk Hogan movie. Why wouldn't they do a Vince McMahon movie?
Yeah. I was also there for, I've got my thoughts on Hulk too. I got along with him, but let's be honest, we've seen what's out there. And as a black man, I don't forgive or forget. And I was also in the room. He was forced to apologize to all of the minority wrestlers that he insulted over and over and over again. And that's why a lot of people don't like Hulk these days, because he got paid a lot of money by Saudi, and he got paid more for one show than the entire roster that went over there after that happened. And I was in the room, and it is what it is. Jack Nicholson, man, if he was still with it enough, he would be great.
I never thought of that. That'd be a really good one. I never thought about that one.
He really would. Aaron, one of these days, I'll go through my entire career. It's really a cool story, how I got started. We won't do it tonight, but one of these days, maybe on a live Q&A that we're going to do on the premium side, we'll do that. But my career and how I got into it was pretty cool. Let's get into Raw tonight, because I think that as we come off Bash in Berlin, and one of the things that Tommy wanted to do, Raphael, is we both cannot understand this love affair with Gunther, and why Triple H and the creative team would put the World Heavyweight Championship on him. So you got him facing Randy Orton, and it's not Randy can work with anybody. I just thought that match was kind of a clunker after the 4 great matches before it. Then he comes out tonight, and then you bring out, what the hell is his name that came out tonight? Somebody help me. Who came out? Red hair, I can't even remember. Came out after CM Punk. No, not Sheamus. Former Intercontinental Champion. Skinny. Oh my gosh.
I can't think of his name either.
Help me out in the chat. Who came out?
Sami Zayn came out.
Sami Zayn. Hell yes.
That's why I couldn't remember it. Sami Zayn came out. That's why I couldn't remember
him. And did you see the one thing I did was funny? He goes, what the? Are you serious? I thought that was pretty funny. But I'm not a. And by the way, DG's in the chat, Soupy's in the chat. Thank you guys. Raphael, I am not a fan of Gunther's style, and I'm a little bit surprised that here in the United States that fans haven't got sick of that style either. Are you?
I'm torn. I kind of like how he brought himself into. I mean, don't forget, when he came into wrestling, he was fat. I mean, and so I like the transformation of how he's probably making this. You know what? This is my business. This is my industry. This is how I'm going to make my bread. So I like how he transformed his body to be what he looks like right now. I like that. I like how he's caring about himself in the ring. But at the same time, I hate that style. I was 110% agreeing with you guys on the pay-per-view. It was so boring. I lost interest. I put the sound on horse racing and shut the sound off on the Georgia game, which was a blowout, and that boring main event that we had on there. So I was watching a horse racing and baseball on sound. So I agree, but I kind of understand why they're giving him that push, just because of how he transformed his body, and to show the bosses back there, say, hey, you know what? I'm here.
I guess. Shout out to the Angle Podcast. My guy, Coach. Hope you're well. I'm good. DG said, if you think Randy can make someone look good, just watch how good Sammy will make Gunther look. Here's my position on why this doesn't make sense to me. Raphael, at WrestleMania 18, I was in the room when Vince and Triple H said, this is going to be the pay-per-view where we're going to make the World Heavyweight Championship the most important thing. And whoever we put it on has to be able to carry the company against anybody. And that was the night, Raphael, that The Rock faced Hulk Hogan, the Mega Powers. And it was the most riveting 45 minutes to an hour I've ever experienced in person. If you'll remember, me and The Rock did our funny little thing where I said my prayers, eat my vitamins. And then it's one of the only 3 times where I've ever walked out onto the floor during a match to watch in person. I was that into it. It gets done. I'm exhausted. The 60,000 fans in attendance and the millions watching around the world, they were exhausted. Oh, we still got Y2J and Triple H to come in the main event. And it was literally the lamest. And if that match on Saturday wouldn't have been in Germany, it would have been the exact same thing. Gunther's got to be able to carry this company like Cody Rhodes does on SmackDown. Cody Rhodes sat there Saturday night. You watched it, and he played the role of Triple H. He goes, biggest house ever. Boom, 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 boom. He's the guy they're putting the horse behind. Are you really telling me the horse is behind Gunther? That's who we're supposed to put the horse behind for Raw? Really?
But
My opinion.
the horse was there for Germany. I think they gave him Germany. Now, it wouldn't shock me if they strip him of the belt. CM Punk, Seth Rollins, someone. I don't think he's going to have the belt for long. I just think they gave him Germany. Here you go. Here's your main event. That crowd was nuts on Germany. Every match, that crowd was nuts, singing every song, singing the whole. I thought I was watching soccer. They sang half the matches. I thought I was watching a soccer match.
Well, the reason it was the first PLE they've ever had in the history of Germany. So, I mean, you and I could have had the main event, and they would have been going nuts on Saturday night. But I'm glad you brought up CM Punk, because tonight was a surprise to me. Me and Tommy thought that it was all going to end at Bash in Berlin. He got I don't want to call it stupid, but come on, we're still dealing with this bracelet. And so tonight, the crowd was red hot in Denver. CM Punk comes out. I'll give Punk credit. He's been in the gym. He looks pretty good physically.
Yes.
Better than he's ever looked. And he does his promo. He walks out of the ring, and I thought it was going to be over. He stands up. He's doing his thing. And then it was shot really, really well. And all of a sudden, here's Drew McIntyre out of nowhere. And Raphael, the beatdown that he put on CM Punk tonight was vicious. It was so vicious. I was happy that it's not over. But now, as we spin it forward, and Bad Blood is coming in a few weeks, what do you think the stipulations are going to be now for those two? Because I have some ideas.
I do believe Bad Blood would be their last match. Because if you can't end a feud after Bad Blood, then something must be wrong. And I think that's why they extended it. You guys talked about it well on Saturday, saying that this is end, and I thought there's Bad Blood coming up. I think that's going to be the end. I don't know what's going to happen on this match. I thought first of all, the beatdown that CM Punk took was the worst beatdown that he took a couple months ago when they were outside and he's bashing him through the garage door and outside. I thought that was a bad beatdown. This one was even worse. So I would love to hear your ideas on how they're going to finish this one.
I want the chat to weigh in as well. What do you think the match, because it's going to happen. It's going to happen. You don't do a beatdown like tonight and you don't lead to something. So let me know in the chat what you think the match should be for Drew and CM Punk. But think about this. Have you ever felt a steel cage? Let me take it a step further. Have you ever been there and felt a Hell in a Cell? That's where I would go. Where you lock them in, where neither one can run, neither one can hide. They beat the hell out of each other. There's blood everywhere. They go to every place. And that, to me, is how you settle that feud. You don't do a regular match. Thank you, Jordan. You agree with me. Great minds think alike. Raphael, if you make this a regular match, it will be the biggest letdown you've ever seen. It's got to be inside Hell in a Cell.
I agree that maybe they can mix in a little Money in the Bank and hang the bracelet with two ladders, and whoever climbs up the ladder and grabs the bracelet's the winner with inside of a Hell of a Cell. That'd be fantastic. That'd be something new.
Soupy says maybe an Iron Man match.
No.
I was there for maybe the last Iron Man match. Cena and Shawn Michaels. I'm not going 60 minutes with these two, Soupy. Come on. Angle Podcast says Drew won, Punk won. Bad Blood is the third winner take all. Hell in a Cell. Nothing else makes sense. I think we all agree on that.
Yep.
I think we all agree on that. By the way, you guys watching The Last Word, we are live every single Monday night. We have a brand new partner. We could not be more excited for mybookie.ag. And here's how we're going to do it, because we're changing the sportsbook game. And Raphael, you were a big part of getting this done. So thank you publicly for this. Now, a lot of you don't play at MyBookie yet. Let's change that. We sign up, use the promo code BTT, and up to $1,000, we're going to match that. So you put in 1,000, we're going to give you another 1,000. Then after the next 30 to 60 days, we get everybody signed up. Then we're going to focus on those that play as well, because we understand and we listen to you. But let's get everybody signed up, use that promo code, show the strength of Behind the Turnbuckle, BTT, and then we're going to play MMA. We're going to play wrestling. We're going to play all of it right here at Behind the Turnbuckle. Now, Raphael, I like to keep it positive. So let's move from CM Punk to Rhea Ripley. There is no denying that she is over like Rover. That crowd was popping. They were ready for her. She's got herself in great shape. She's got the look, the black lipstick, the black hair. I just don't like her on the mic. I need less talking and more beating people up. Does her voice bother you at all?
Yeah, she reminds me of China, of the body, and China never spoke. I mean, she rarely, really spoke. They need that to do with Rhea, even though I don't know, she makes me tingle inside because I just love the way she just beats the crap out of everybody. I mean, it's just fantastic. I can watch her beat up women, men, anybody she wants. I mean, oh yeah, I love her. I love her style in the ring. You could just tell she's angry in the ring, and that's the style I like.
She needs to lay out Dom. It's taking too long now. Well, here's a problem, Angle Podcast, is that the crowd is so hot for this entire angle that it's really hard. And this goes back to what we talk about here on the show all the time. There's too many shows. When you're trying to create something new every single week, it's really hard when you're sitting in the writer's room and you're like, so what do we do this? Well, we did that 2 weeks. No, okay, it's hard to even remember. I remember, Raphael, we would have a meeting every single week. We called it the production meeting, usually around 1:00. And there would be about 20 or 30 of us in there. I was always in there. And then Vince and Kevin Dunn, and then eventually Triple H would sit at the front table, and they would go over the entire show, and then they would ask for reactions. Nobody ever said anything because they were terrified of Vince, except for Pat Patterson, the legendary first Intercontinental Champion. And it was a situation where what were we just talking about? I literally just lost my train of thought, Raphael. What was I just talking about? I literally went blank.
Making decisions. You're in the room when making matches because there's too many shows.
There you go. So when you're trying to be creative and stretch things out over the course of a month, 2, 3, 4 months, and really great storylines, Raphael, they can go for 6 months or a year. It's hard to do that when you're on TV every single week and you're writing 2 full shows, Raw and SmackDown. I have found all of it entertaining. But the other part of this, Raphael, is that Dom is maybe the most over heel I've ever seen in my career. Because when you're a heel, it's all about getting heat, getting the crowd reaction, and getting them to hate you so much that when you show up, they can't control themselves. And now what's happening is every time he raises that microphone, the crowd goes bananas. But how did that happen? They say it's taken too long. You don't get that reaction, Raphael, unless city after city after city tries to one-up each other. Because Denver watched wherever they were last week. That city watched wherever they were the week before. And they go, I want to be bigger than that. I want to be louder than that. So now you've got Dom with so much heat. And the reason he has so much heat is this. The crowd thinks they're him. He's not super jacked. He's got that stupid mustache. And they look at him and go, listen, I'm just like this dude, except for this point. He walks around with Liv. And these regular dudes at home, and maybe girls too, could never walk around with Liv. And that pisses them off. And so now they're like, I hate this dude because he has what we could never have. And that's magic, Raphael. And I've never seen anything like it with any heel in my career. Can you give me a name that has had this much natural heat?
No, I can't. I mean, they boo him when he comes out. They boo him when he grabs the mic. They boo him anywhere. I would love to see a mustache match with someone. If he loses, he has to shave the mustache. That's what I'm waiting for. Maybe he can wrestle his dad. If Ray loses, he has to take the mask off. If Don loses, he has to shave the mustache. That's what I'm hoping for one of these days. But I cannot remember such a big heel than him. It's fantastic, but I totally understand where you're coming from. It's a little bit over now. I mean, you said it. Every city is trying to up that one city. They need to mix something up. They need to do something to maybe refresh that heel.
Shout out to Tina in the chat. Tina, welcome to The Last Word. I think Angle Podcast, this guy's smart, man. I like what he's saying here. How about Rhea against Dom? Because Dom just did an interview where he said he'd be open to it. It's been a lot of years, and I was there for this, when China wrestled all the guys in the company. And you got to be very, very careful. If you notice the other day in the mixed tag match, they did it. It was really creative because you just from perception in the world we live in today, you don't really want to have a big guy beating up a girl or the perception of beating up a girl. But I think in this instance, Dom said he'd be open to it. And the way that China's matches were put together back in the day with Jeff Jarrett and a lot of those guys was very believable. It has to be believable. And I think that their sizes are similar. I think Rhea is a badass. And I think that they could do it in such a way that it would be believable. And if Dom wins, Rhea cannot face Liv as the champion at Bad Blood. That would be something nice. I could sink my teeth into, huh, Raphael?
Yeah, I mean, Angle Podcast is dead on that, and I would love to see that stipulation and that match. That's brilliant. Maybe does he work for WWE? Maybe Angel Podcast. WWE, call him.
Well, I know that there's an Angle Podcast with my good friend Conrad. You know, maybe so. All right, so we've hit the Judgment Day. We've hit a lot of the good things. Tommy,
someone in the chat said Vicky Guerrero. Vicky Guerrero was a great heel. That voice.
Oh my gosh! Oh my God. Now she was at a time, Tommy, where I was like kind of transitioning out, and I was kind of at the tail end. I can't remember the year that she was there. Her voice was the most annoying voice in the history of time. Now I will say this: she was one of the sweetest human beings that you could ever meet in your life. And part of the reason they gave her that role is, let's just be honest, the way her husband, and I was in the hotel when he passed, when Eddie Guerrero passed.
Well, really?
He was actually, I've never told this story. He was actually in the room directly above me in the hotel in Minneapolis the day that he passed. And I was eating breakfast, and we got a text for everybody to go over to the arena, and nobody knew why. And we get over there, and then they broke the news to us that they had found Eddie passed away in the hotel that we had just come from in Minneapolis. So that was a little eerie. And this is one of the things where all the negative that's said about Vince, he does a lot of good things behind the scenes that nobody ever knew about. And I think it's fair to say that. And having Vicky be around the crew and being around, again, I wasn't there, but I know how he thinks. And when Eddie passed away and their entire life was pro wrestling and WWE, to have Vicky have a role, I thought was really, really sweet. And I'll give her credit because I just saw somebody send it to me the other day. Remember The Rock sang and made fun of her and all those things?
Fantastic.
She had to buy into that because when you're a heel, you've got to let people make fun of you. People always say to me, Raphael, oh, you're an idiot. You're that guy that let Rock do A, B, C, D to you. And I look back at him and say, and you would cut off your left leg to even be in the same room with The Rock, let alone do that. It's always funny to me when people say that, right?
Yep. I would do it. Come, here's my leg.
There you go. Let's do it. And so I give credit to Vicky for buying into being a heel because it's not easy. It's not easy to be a heel in front of millions of people, having everybody make fun of you. But when you're a heel and you walk out with the crowd like Dom, and that crowd, the louder they are. I remember, Raphael, when I would hear my music play and the crowd would lose their minds. Oh, it was music to my ears. Music to my ears. However, tonight, Raphael, there were some things that just don't make any sense to me. And I hate to make fun of the women's division, but it's a mess. It's an absolute mess. First and foremost, Pure Fusion Collective is the worst name in the history of wrestling. Would you agree?
100%. Abbreviate. That's like when the first Marvel Avengers movie, when they were trying to figure out Shield. Remember when they kept on trying to shorten the name on? I think it was Iron Man.
I think you're right. And it's more difficult, but it's the issue I have, and I'll get to Pete Dunne in a second. But Zelina Vega, love her. She looks great and has been around for a long time. She's just too small to be taken seriously in a big match with a Shayna Baszler. As Shayna's wearing the mouthpiece like she's going to be in this hardcore MMA style match. And it's Zelina Vega, who's 5 feet tall and nothing. And that, to me, Vince Russo taught us here on the show. It's got to be realistic. You've got to write towards reality. And Raphael, when you watch those two standing in the ring next to each other, is that realistic to you?
Yeah, not even close.
Not even.
And I like Zelina Vega, but that's just totally mismatched.
She should be a sidekick. That's it. She's great as a manager. She's a great promo giver. Let her talk. Give her two big dudes next to her, and she's golden. But this whole thing that they keep throwing her out there, because Raphael, right now, the women's division is very light when it comes to stars. Charlotte, still out hurt. Becky Lynch, don't know what she's doing. Soupy said it. They need Charlotte and Becky back. Lord, do they ever. Right now, to me, Raphael, it's Rhea and Liv, and thank God Liv has stepped up, and everybody else. And then you had the tag team match tonight.
Oof.
And do you know how telling it is when Bianca Belair and Jade Cargill are sitting next to the announcers? In my day, you put the headsets on and you let them talk. But when they can't talk, that's an issue, is it not?
Yep. That's the first thing I noticed, that they were just sitting there with no headphones, not talking. It's funny how you said that, because when I was watching, I'm like, hey, how come they're not on the air? How come they're not talking? It's like crickets.
Because they would be exposing themselves.
Yep.
And you can't expose yourself on the mic. I said it many, many times here on BTT. If you can't talk, there's only so far you're going to go. You can't get completely over. You got to make people care. And those two, as great as they look, Jade has held Bianca back. Her in-ring work is subpar at best. Her mic work is worse than that. But it's a 7-figure investment. They had to put the titles back on them in Berlin. And now I think, Raphael, 3 to 6 months is what they're going to get. If they can't do something together, I think they pull them apart and let Bianca Belair go back by herself, which I think they need to do anyway. Do you?
I thought they would have done it already. So I was actually shocked that they gave them the belts. I thought they would have separated, just because you said how light they are. And it's both companies. It's not even WWE. AEW's females are light as well. It's light both sides. And I mean, Azuka, I heard that she should sign an extension. I thought Alexa Bliss is really close to coming back. But those two are not Becky Lynch and Charlotte. They're still going to be light if those two come back. So yeah, it's going to be very interesting to see what the women division heads off in the next couple of months.
I am also, Jordan says, I hope Kari Sane's eye is okay after that table spot. The table spot looked great, but there was a lot of sloppiness on the show tonight, and that is one of it. They were trying to use Bianca, Raphael, to be in the way and have her, and it looked awesome as she went way up. But then you got the edge of the table, and I think she hit it incorrectly.
Yes.
And that's why, to me, you only let certain superstars do those kinds of spots. And she's not one of them, in my opinion. And then if you're Bianca, you got to catch her. You got to
catch her.
By the way, did you see the video the other day? And people tell me all the time, Coach, all you do is make fun of AEW. Did you see the spot? I can't even remember the match. It was like a 6-man or something. And they were setting
exactly
up. You know what I'm talking about? And he brought the two guys together, and the cameraman shot it, and he was like hugging them. I was like, this is why AEW gets crushed. They do stuff like this. It's so bad. It's so bad. That's why you got to have a production meeting. You got to have the camera guys that are the pros. WWE, you know, Raphael, all the camera guys in WWE, they are all the best. They all do the Super Bowl, World Series, college football, and they sit in the bus until it's time to work, because they're out there for 5 hours. They're handhelds like this, and nobody else can do what they do. And that video we're talking about, that's why you have the top shelf guys. You can't shoot that. You shoot the guy climbing up, and you shoot him jumping, and then all of a sudden they're together. But you can't expose how you do it. How bad was that?
Yeah, it was pretty bad.
Really other bad thing was that whole, when the girls were doing the rolling stuff, and oh God. So bad. So bad. They really got to work on that wrestling stuff in AEW, or we can't be honest. This show, we're honest. We are honest. And if I'm being honest, tonight in the triple threat match, remember the spot? I wrote down his Dragunov, and he was laying there, and he took the who was against Dragunov tonight? The guy with the mask on. Can't remember his name. I never watch him. It was him and then Dom, and Damian Priest chases Dom off, and then they do the spot where they're in the corner, and he jumps and he lands on his chest, but he's hanging there, and his head and his neck was right next to the mat. Raphael, that's one of the most dangerous spots I've ever seen, and people don't even realize how close he came tonight to breaking his neck. Dragon Lee. Thank you, Jordan. Dragon Lee. I wouldn't have taken it. A, I would never have taken it. And B, the way he did it, his entire body on his chest with his neck like that. They've got to stop doing this shit. Yeah. They have to do it. We're going to have another one. Big E's already out. I was there for Darren Drozdoff years ago.
Oh, wow.
And, I mean, my partner, it just, you can't do those spots. It's just, and they want to raise the level. If you have good storytelling, Raphael, you don't need to do that stuff. You just don't. But now here's the fatal four-way. And tell me, Raphael, if this makes any sense to you. Jey Uso, complete sense. Dragunov, okay. Pete Dunne, what are we doing? And now the fourth guy is Braun Strowman. So Pete Dunne at $180 is going to be in there against Braun Strowman? Make this make sense to me, Raphael.
Yeah, I'm a big boxing guy, MMA guy, and weight classes. That's the reason why there's weight classes. And you got Braun Strowman that's going to weigh more than all three of them. When I saw it was Braun Strowman, I'm like, really? I'm like, he's a monster. I mean, now it's going to be hard for me to if they're going to let Uso Yeet win it, because how is he supposed to beat Braun Strowman? I know he's big, but he's not Braun Strowman's big. I thought this is how they were going to push Yeet around and give him a big boost, but now I'm questioning it now because Braun Strowman's in this match. This one makes no sense. It's the horrible 404 Horseman.
It really is. Angle Podcast, man, you've got so many good thoughts tonight. Thank you. Keep Braun off TV until Bronson is cleared. That's kind of where I was going to head with my thoughts. So people don't know, Bronson Reed got diagnosed with COVID, and so he wasn't on tonight, and I think he would have ended up winning that match that he was supposed to be in one of the triple threats. I don't know which one, but he would have won it because they're pushing Bronson Reed. But when you have, and this is where, when you're a big monster, and Jordan, this is exactly where I was going. He gets put through a car. We shouldn't see Braun Strowman for 2 or 3 weeks, but yet he shows up tonight going, put me out there. Like Willis Reed, put me in, coach. I'm good. I can do it.
Paul Pierce.
Yeah, Paul Pierce. I'm just like, do we not have enough talent? And I don't believe that they do. They would probably argue different. We have multiple segment matches, and then you have to put Braun Strowman in that match, and then he does the runaround, and he does a normal human being, no matter if you're a giant or not. Your ribs are toast. You're sitting out for 3 weeks, but they throw him in there tonight, and he wins. It doesn't make any sense. It's not good storytelling.
Paul Pierce won when he came back in, so maybe that's why they were doing it. Yeah, it makes no sense whatsoever on that match. And I mean, I like Braun Strowman. I met him once, and he was super, super nice to me. He shook my hand. I thought he crushed my hand, but I just don't understand it. And now I'm questioning what they're doing with Uso. I'm questioning what they're doing with him now.
I've been questioning that. I'm actively trying to get Rikishi here on the show because for anybody that's new to BTT, we have several different kinds of shows. This is kind of a brand. Think of BTT as an umbrella, and we have this show on Mondays. We have the War Room for premium members. If you're not a premium member yet, I encourage you to join because we have a lot of things over there. We did a full watch along on Saturday, but we also do interviews, and we just did Maven last week and Chris Van Vliet, and those will be released in the next week or two. I'm trying to get Rikishi, Raphael, because he was adamant that the company is not using Jey Uso correctly. And I agree 1,000%. Did you see him tonight when he comes out with his own entrance and the entire crowd is yeet, 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 yeet? And I'm like, what are we watching? This dude is maybe, arguably, the most over superstar right now. And he doesn't have a storyline. He doesn't have a rivalry. And he's in this like weird love triangle going after Rhea and then telling Damian Priest, I respect you. Let's go out there tonight and get it done as a tag team. I agree with Rikishi. Aren't they severely underutilizing him?
Every brand, TNA, AEW, WWE, he is the most underrated right now. I mean, for 2 weeks to come out of the curtain and the crowd still gives you that kind of a pop because we haven't seen him in weeks. He's been in the back doing interviews, but we have not seen him come out. So to get that kind of a pop on a 2 week or even more layoff, I was impressed. So I'm questioning what they're doing with him now. I thought maybe I had maybe an answer, but now this horrible 4-way that we're seeing. Now I'm questioning myself again. So maybe the Angle Podcast can help me out here and what they're going to do with him, because he's on fire this evening. But I'm questioning what they're doing with and I want a Yeet shirt, so I need them to keep on pushing them.
It's the #1 shirt selling right now in all of WWE. It doesn't take a genius. And I'm telling you, I always like to refer back to, I was there during the hottest time in the business. I don't care what anybody says about it right now. 2000 to 2002, every show, TV, house show, sold out to the gills. You had 15 guys, Raphael, that could main event. Rock, Stone Cold, Triple H, Shawn Michaels, Undertaker, D-Generation X, Kane, everybody. That was true competition. And the show was only 2 hours. So how much do you think superstars sat backstage and just waited for somebody to come up to them and hand them their assignment? Oh, no. But now it feels like they're so terrified with TKO taking over and all of these people in WWE getting fired and guys, some signing new deals, others not. They're waiting to be told what they're going to do. Jey Uso is one of those guys that's waiting, which sucks because the business is all about the reaction. And he gets a bigger one than anybody else. I don't know what management is thinking, what they're watching, what they're doing.
I agree, especially with the report that came out today with TKO that they're having a hard time selling tickets for UFC and in the Sphere, that they had to drop the prices for that one. So if that doesn't go well, there's going to be some layoffs again, probably. And what department they're going to look at? They're going to look at WWE before they go in their own back pocket.
For people who don't know, shout out to my man Casey Walkup from Wichita, Kansas. My first job. In fact, I will tell this story right here, right now, and I'll go more into depth. So I don't know if all of you watching at home know this, but the reason so let me just say this. So 1999, I get hired in Kansas City, and it was April. In May of 1999, the big pay-per-view was coming to Kansas City, and it was rocking at that point. My station sent me to Florida to do what we call a series, a 3-part series on the WWE. The WWF at the time gave me tickets to go to this pay-per-view. I was sitting in the 7th row. Casey Walkup, the name you see in the chat right there, very good friend of mine back in the day. I invited him up. If it wasn't for Casey Walkup, I do not know if my WWE career ever would have happened. Here's what happened that night. I did a live shot, like outside of the arena, Kemper Arena, Kansas City. They now no longer really use it because they have the Sprint Center. And I gave my briefcase to our photographer. He takes it back to the station. That night, for some of you who are a little bit older, was the night that Owen Hart fell from the rafters and died instantly in the ring. I was about 15 feet away from that. That match didn't happen with the Godfather. And thank God that all the lights were out. And so nobody saw it. We heard it. And then the lights came up. He was laying there and he was instantly dead. So me and Casey had to go back to our station to get my briefcase that I gave to my photographer. We walk in, the place is buzzing. And I walk up to my producer back in the office and I said, listen, man, I think something happened out there tonight. He looked at me and I quote, "You fucking think so?" A man died. 8 minutes. I'm live on the start of our evening news in Kansas City. I told them what I saw. I was up all night. I was on Good Morning America the next day. Larry King Live the next evening. 3 months later, the very first SmackDown, you can look this up if you want to, was booked in Kansas City. They couldn't sell any tickets. WWE called me. Can we bring Shawn Michaels to your station? I said yes. Met a senior VP, and the rest is sort of history. That's the Reader's Digest version. Raphael, what do you think of that story? And Casey Walkup was there. And you guys can ask him in the chat. He'll tell you everything I just said is true.
That's amazing. That story. I remember that. So it gives me chills and sad. Wrestling, when it comes to WWE, there's so many good stories and laugh stories and love stories and just great stories, but there's also those negative, bad ones where, I mean, we already mentioned Big E. I mean, Guerrero. I mean, there's always good and there's always bad. So
it's a little bit of both, and that's why when Vince Russo says that when you write for the show, it's got to be reality based. It's because the wrestling business is probably the most unique, crazy business, good, bad, and ugly, that exists in the world today. I've said it many, many times that I am grateful to be alive at this point of my life because of my 10 years in my 20s that I spent inside of the WWE. Grateful to be alive. That is an absolute, what we call in the business, a shoot. So one day I'll get into the entire story, but that's kind of the Reader's Digest version. And I always think to myself, there it is, 100% correct. I might have even asked if he should call the station after it happened. We actually, to take it a step further, there was a doctor sitting in front of me and Casey, and I remember asking him because they were giving CPR, straddling Owen Hart, pushing him out of the arena. And I remember asking this doctor, I said, do you think that was real or part of the show? Nobody knew. He says, if this is real, and I quote, that's the worst CPR I've ever seen in my life. It was a doctor sitting right in front of us with his kids. So back then, and this is how long ago this was, Raphael, we didn't have cell phones. Only the reporters had cell phones. The sports guys didn't even have beepers because they said to us, sports things are scheduled. There's never breaking news in sports until that night. And so they had no way of getting a hold of me because I didn't have a station cell phone. Cell phones existed, but I didn't have a station cell phone. So that's why when we went back and all that happened, it was absolutely bananas. And I think about that in case, I think about that all the time. And it's funny how, Raphael, one thing can change the trajectory of your entire life. You know what I mean? If I wouldn't have the WWE, I wouldn't have my two kids. If I didn't have my two kids, what would I have? Like, those are the things that I think about all the time. And I think that's why I've enjoyed coming back here and being kind of a conduit for fans who love the business to be positive, but also be real because of the stories that happen inside the business. And I've enjoyed that the most. All right. We'll get it more into that as we go along. Thank you, Mr. All Days Off. We appreciate you and checking out. This is the highest live audience that we've had yet. And hopefully you guys enjoy it every single Monday. Raphael, final thoughts on Bash in Berlin, Raw, kind of the week that's been as we head into what's going to be kind of the next 3 or 4 weeks as a position for Bad Blood.
Bash in Berlin, B+. I almost gave it an A if it wasn't for the main event. Raw, I gave it maybe a C, but Bash in Berlin, still talking about it, still remembering some of the stuff I saw. So I was really impressed with Bash in Berlin.
All right. I was too. I loved 4 of the 5 matches. I thought that Cody and Kevin Owens told an incredible story. So I loved how they started it. I thought Judgment Day was red hot. So if you can give me a 5-match pay-per-view all the time, I would take it. I would take it. I really, really would. Rich said, is my bookie where I can bet the WWE? Would you like to take that one, Raphael?
Yes, it is. Because I'm one of the odds makers that does the wrestling betting odds for my bookie over there. So yes, and I'm going to be putting out a lot of interesting prop bets for pay-per-views and some other stuff. We've been putting out some who's going to elect John Cena into the WWE Hall of Fame because he's coming up pretty soon. So it's going to be interesting stuff now that we're a part of this. So can't wait to do some shocking WWE odds.
And that's the thing. And full transparency for all of you that are thinking, man, betting on a wrestling, I used to think it was the dumbest thing in the world. And what I've learned as we now dominate the pro wrestling space, and we will continue to do it, is that it can be fun. And sometimes, Raphael, because now that you're on our team, and I want everybody to know this, a lot of the odds that you see out there in the world that are presidential odds, wrestling odds, MMA, my guy right here makes them. My guy, that's what his business is. That's the team that we put together. And then with global books, there's a lot more freedom than you have with a domestic book. So here on BTT, my bookie came to us and they said, listen, you guys do wrestling. You're also a part of the sports betting community. Let's put it together. So that's why if you guys open up an account, there's going to be tons of stuff there. And eventually, Raphael, we're going to do contests. We're going to do a lot of fun things. We want to change how this whole business is done globally, but also with the fun things. And by the way, can you tell the good people at home, you made the odds for who would have John Cena's last match at WrestleMania, and your boy, plus 3,500. And I had people laughing at me. Have there been any tickets written on the coach yet?
I think we're getting close to like 25 to 30 tickets written on a coach. So I don't know how many. I don't know how big your family is. So I don't know if it's all family members, but it's like I said. People think. See, you always mention, oh, John Cena did this to me. WWE fans are also WWE historians. They know, and so they're like, oh, I remember this storyline. Maybe it will be coach. Maybe it will be this. So I got to give respect to WWE fans and wrestling fans in general. They're not only fans, they're historians. They remember everything.
My back still remembers the table he put me through in our tables match. And then that night, he was so impressed with my toughness, we sat down with 20 Jack Daniel's shots. And I still get shudders when I think about all those Jack Daniel's shots. And then it's the only time I've ever done this. You know those little throw-up bags in the back of the seat on the plane, Raphael? Yeah, well, let's just say at 6 a.m. when we barely made it to the airport in the Quad Cities, your boy found out the best way to get somebody to move to another seat on the plane and give you the whole row. That's all you got to do is use a throw-up bag. Yeah, that's all you got to do. That's all you got to do. All right, that's going to do it for tonight. Look at that, almost an hour of storytelling, because that's what this brand is truly all about. It's all about stories. Thank you, guys, for staying with us till after midnight on a Monday night. For those of you that watch us on DTL, you guys know we'll be back at 10 a.m. tomorrow morning. Also, DTL, the podcast. We encourage you to download that. That drops daily at 2 p.m. Eastern time. We're taking over the world in sports betting and in pro wrestling. And you guys, you're helping us do it. Bring all your friends. Bring all your families. Let's do this thing. We're just getting started. For Raphael tagging in for a pissed off Tommy C. Can't wait for Tommy's beef this week with some bad Wi-Fi. He'll be ready. Producer man, I am the coach. We'll see you next time underneath the BTT umbrella right here on The Last Word. Take care.
Has been paid for by Behind the Turnbuckle Plus. New pod order.